Hi, welcome to Promo Insiders, the ASI Media podcast that covers the issues that matter most to the promotional products industry. I'm Teresa Hegel, Executive Editor of Digital Content, and today I'm joined by Andy Bell, CEO of Boxercraft, and Bill Johnston, co-founder and president of Recover Brands. Today, Andy and Bill will be talking with me about the importance of closed-loop and also how the promo industry can help their clients meet their ESG goals. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Very welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So from what I understand, both of your companies are part of NG Labs. Can you tell me a little bit about where you guys fit into that? I feel like a lot of people kind of know what Boxercraft is, but maybe Recover is not as well known. So I'd love to hear, what NG Labs is, and then maybe a little background from your company, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. So NG Labs, it stands for New Generation Labs, and it's basically a subsidiary of a company called Introdeco Apparel, which is a large apparel manufacturer based out of Miami with manufacturing in Central America. So both Boxercraft and Recover are part of the NG Labs family, and we're kind of a suite of specialty brands. Some other brands that are in the family are Head Sweats, which is a performance headwear brand. Recover, which is the business unit that I run, is focused on sustainable apparel, and then of course Boxercraft as well, which has as you're well aware, has been in the industry for a long time. But in terms of Recover and kind of how we fit into NG Labs, so we joined NG Labs about 2 years ago now, and the business itself, Recover, has been around since 2010, and we've been a mission-driven company since the very beginning, and that's always been to make the most environmentally friendly and socially responsible products. And we've always been really focused on making products out of 100% recycled materials, so recycled cotton and recycled polyesters, and focused on building the most sustainable supply chain possible. So we not only think about recycled materials that go into our products, but where we make the products, how we make the products, how we can conserve water, conserve energy, reduce carbon emissions, and really taking a holistic approach to sustainability. So we've been, like as I said, we've been around since 2010, and then 2 years ago we joined Introdeco and NG Labs with the goal of really scaling the brand and kind of taking it to another level. Kind of really getting Recover in front of more folks. And the reason why it was such a great fit is because Introdeco has been committed to sustainability for so long. And through its vertical manufacturing in El Salvador, we're actually able to control our entire supply chain from start to finish. So we bring in recycled material to the factory in El Salvador. We break the fibers down, we spin our own yarn, we knit our own fabric, and we cut and sew our own garments. And so it gives us full control of our entire supply chain. And what that allows us to do is offer the most sustainable product to the market at a really competitive price. And as far as NG Labs go, we actually moved into the Boxercraft building in Atlanta earlier this year. So we're now doing all of our distribution out of Atlanta, and we've got a great system in place there with all the infrastructure that Boxercraft has been working to build for years. So that's kind of the quick rundown of how we fit into it. And
yeah. So Andy, like I said, I think most of us, I think, in the industry know about Boxercraft, but what's something people might not know about Boxercraft?
Well, I think, really since COVID, I think the big thing, if you haven't seen us lately, is the brand's grown up, right? I think people know us from the team space and spirit wear and the collegiate markets, which are certainly part of it, but we've really been on a mission because we really truly believe we fundamentally belong in the corporate promotional product space. So you're seeing, when you look at the product assortment of what we're doing, there's a heavy emphasis on alumni and that space. So I think you'll see that the brand's grown up, obviously perfecting our operational capabilities, preparing to bring Recover and Head Sweats into our facility. So we use our domestic decorating capabilities, embroidery, screen print, heat transfer, everything we do internally, to them, as well as obviously having a warehouse full of blank product. So I think people may miss that we launched the menswear side of our business prominently. We've been women's, which is great. We love that space. 75% of our business is women's today, and we want to keep that mix. And that actually kind of changes maybe how we come to market. Certainly on the corporate dressing side is I'm not a big fan of unisex t-shirts. I mean, and I'm sure as a woman too, you're like, okay, I don't need another polo. I don't need, we want women to come at dressing. And so we don't come at this from this point of view of let's put everybody in a matching polo.
Right. And I think a lot of women would appreciate that you guys are women first, and then, okay, yeah, there's some men's stuff too, which is great. But usually it's the opposite. It's usually like we do mostly men's and unisex, and oh yeah, here's a couple of, ladies fits or whatnot.
And it's funny because as men, I can, and Bill will agree with this, is we're easy, right? Crew neck t-shirt, polo, quarter zip, we're all good. It's not complicated for us. So it's a little bit backwards in that regard. So everybody we talk to, as we're getting involved, we're seeing more and more of that, is that it may be a simple crew neck t-shirt on his side, but the companion piece is something with some style and some fashion and where she's comfortable and she feels like point of view. And ultimately you do your job with decorating and everybody feels like a team. You don't have to be in the same thing, but and that's why they're companion, I think, for us as a broader definition. So we're excited. We're seeing a lot of really good activity with the brand, and we feel good about that direction. And our mission is to bring that kind of loungewear, casual, comfortable, inspired place of where Boxercraft comes from into corporate dressing. But certainly, again, giving her a little bit more fashionable point of view.
Okay. So I think we sort of touched on this at the very beginning, but let's talk a little bit more about like the idea of closed loop manufacturing. How would you guys actually define that? And why is that an important, point for people to understand?
Yeah. So for us, closed loop manufacturing is really keeping materials out of the landfill. When we design a product, our goal is to make sure that the materials that go into that product can stay in circulation. So we think about using 100% recycled materials that are also 100% recyclable at the end of the garment's life. So, when someone invests in a recover product, we know that it's infinitely recyclable and will never end up in the landfill. And that's a big part of our company ethos and just our brand DNA is to think about the circularity of things and really what goes into closed loop manufacturing. And I mentioned earlier, it's because we control our entire supply chain, we're able to really watch all aspects and ensure that any materials that we use are going into new products. And you'll see it in some of our products in particular. Our rainbow tee, which is a really popular color for us, is sort of the bottom of the barrel in terms of the recycled scraps that we use. But it's really cool because the color in the garments actually comes from the recycled material. So again, we're saving water, we're saving energy, and on average, one of our garments uses 10 times less water and energy than a conventional shirt that's dyed. So again, we're just thinking about the full circularity of the product and making sure that the materials don't end up in the landfill.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say, I think I've heard the term circular, economy a lot, but is that kind of synonymous with closed loop?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of, pick your terminology, I guess. But yeah, we've kind of coined it as like our 360-degree closed loop program to really talk about the circularity of things. And one thing that we're really excited about that we've been spending a ton of time over the last few years developing is post-consumer garment recycling as well. So we actually have the ability to take back post-consumer garments on the individual level. So, folks can come to our website, they can purchase a closed loop mailer, send back their old t-shirts. We break the fibers down, put it back into our supply chain to make more garments. And then, of course, we can do it on a B2B level as well, where we've, had some really interesting partnership activations where we're taking back, dead stock or large programs and then repurposing those materials as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point. Is a lot of this comes from the commitment to stay out of the landfill, because it's one thing to go produce a product and then not care about what happens to it once it's sold, right? And so I think it has to be a part of your corporate ethos. And I think with Bill's leadership and the support of Introdeco, we're way down that path much further than a lot of other people in terms of having those capabilities and starting to figure out how to scale them. I mean, that's one of the reverse logistics of bringing these, post-consumer products back and getting them, broken down and back into that's a big hurdle, and it's not something that for the most part the world has cared much about, which is, it's nice to see is that if you're really committed to this process, you're committed to what happens, when it's done being used and where it goes from there. So I think that's one of the things that as an organization, as NG Labs, as our individual brands, and as part of Introdeco, it's one of the things that we stand on proudly.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, and that I think that's so true, is that for a while it was always just about like, what are you making? But we weren't talking about the end of life and where does this go? What happens to it? But I think the conversation is changing. But like you guys said, you have to have that infrastructure in place. So a lot of companies are maybe kind of scrambling to get to a point to where you guys have already been, which puts you at an advantage. But it's something that I think everybody in the industry should be thinking about and figuring out how to handle. So another thing that's a big talking point these days is just supply chain transparency and kind of how to measure sustainability efforts. So I know like buyers want to make sure that there's no greenwashing and that like the raw materials are coming from where manufacturers actually say they're coming from. So can you guys talk a little bit about how suppliers in the promo industry can help distributors meet any kind of ESG goals that their clients are looking for and actually kind of measure that and show it?
Yeah, for us, transparency and being able to quantify the impact of our products is everything. I mean, Andy just mentioned, it's not, this stuff takes time to build, and we've spent decades building these supply chains where we really do know the ins and outs of how to recycle garments, both post-industrial and post-consumer. And because we control our own supply chain, we're able to measure these things at every level, whether that's at the sorting facility to recycle the scraps, yarn spinning, knitting, and really the most water and energy intensive part of it, the dyeing process, which we actually bypass and just scour our products. But with that, we're able to just control the entire process and really take a deep dive into the systems and measure that. And we actually contract with third-party auditors to measure these things for us. So earlier this year, we did a third-party LCA with a company to help us really take a deep dive into measuring the water usage, the energy usage, and thinking about that entire supply chain. And with that, we're able to provide sustainability reports internally so we can measure our success. And then because we do everything in-house, we can in turn create these reports for our customers as well. And so when we look at the promotional products industry and working with different partners, we want to be a solution for them to help tell their sustainability story. And we think of our product very much as that. It's a vehicle to promote a lot of these sustainability initiatives. And by having these third-party audits and certifications that we go through, we can produce these reports that are great materials to go into a company's sustainability reporting or just showing their kind of overall awareness. So we prefer it when folks come to us and ask for certifications and want to know, like, hey, what really went into this? Because it is a big differentiator for us and part of that infrastructure that we've been building for decades.
Yeah. For people who don't know, could you explain what LCA stands for, what that is?
Yeah, so basically it's a life cycle analysis on the product. So we're looking at every step of the supply chain and essentially taking a deep dive into the raw material. So for us, we're using 100% recycled materials in our products. So we're verifying where did those materials come from. So it's a combination of post-consumer cotton waste, post-industrial cotton waste. We have a lot of post-consumer plastics that go into the polyester that we blend into the garment. So we take a look at it from the early stages of raw material. Where do those materials come from? And everything from like, what part of the world are we sourcing those raw materials to? Because a big part of the sustainability efforts is in reducing carbon emissions is localizing supply chains. So we a term that we use that we've kind of coined is we call it hyperlocal supply chain. So we try to make everything in really tight proximity. So we're actually sourcing recycled materials in the region. So the majority of the recycled cotton that we use is coming from El Salvador and neighboring countries in Central America. So it's a really tight proximity, and you're reducing transportation carbon emissions. So yeah, we look at it from the raw material standpoint, and then of course in the manufacturing process, yarn spinning, knitting, and finishing fabric is very water and energy intensive, and so yeah, like in El Salvador, we're very proud of the fact that we put a lot of emphasis on our water recycling program. And that's something that Introdeco has been working on again for decades and just thinking about how to repurpose water, keep it in circulation. It goes through an osmosis process. So after that fabric is finished, we're able to reclaim the water and use it again. We take the same approach with the energy that's used to power our facilities. At our yarn spinning facility, for example, 70% of it is powered by solar. And so, we're thinking about renewable energy and how we're running the factories and plants. And so the LCA, what it really does is just take a deep dive into all aspects of the supply chain and then quantifies those aspects. So, you've got a conventional shirt that's used, industry standards across the world. And that's basically the baseline. And then we measure ourselves against that, and we can show the savings of our process in comparison to a conventional shirt.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Um,
So what other trends do you guys foresee when it comes to sustainability and promo apparel? Like, what should distributors be on the lookout for?
Well, listen, I think you're going to see it continue to evolve. And I don't, this is the beauty of this is there's always a way to take a half a step forward, to take one step forward, to take two steps forward. And you're going to see companies that are further along than others. But what I love to see is that more and more companies, and nearly everyone, has their eye on it in some way. And everybody's contribution is going to help, right? So I think you'll see more and more products people continue to try and find, and the availability in the manufacturing in terms of yarns that are available, fabrics that are available, those are becoming more prevalent. So I just think you're going to continue to see these products show up in products and in garments and in places that you haven't seen before, as people are truly, looking at the manufacturing process, looking what they're doing, trying to find a way to be better. So I think I think you have to applaud everybody that is taking those steps, no matter how big or how small, because let's face, not everything in the world is a sustainable product, and we're a long way away from that. And maybe that's the goal for everything, because obviously for us on the Boxercraft side, a lot of what we do isn't, but we're very aware of how we're sourcing, how we're manufacturing, and working with, people that have their eye on the ball. So I don't know that I can tell you that I think there's one trend coming other than sustainability as a push, being able to measure ourselves and the impact we're having and all of that. That's just going to continue to grow. But I think it just broadly covers the market, and more options are going to be out there for people that want to choose a sustainable path.
Yeah. What about like the pricing? Because I know sometimes the sustainable option has been more expensive. Do you think prices are going to make it become more competitive?
Well, from a pricing standpoint, that's an area we've been very focused of offering a very competitively priced product, and really thinking about sustainability is in giving access to everyone, right? Like we don't want sustainability to be this small percentage of products that are going out there, for a small demographic. We want sustainable to be for the masses, for everyone, because in order for us to really make an impact and inspire change, it has to be available for everyone and at a good price point. And from our standpoint, because we do control our entire supply chain, we make everything in-house, we are able to offer a really premium, sustainable product at an affordable price. And so I think as the demand increases, we're able to get even more competitive with that too. And I would also add that, at this point, we're so encouraged by the interest and increasing demand in people asking for sustainable products, versus if you compare this to 10 years ago where it was a more novel concept and people were like, maybe a small demographic was curious about it, but maybe not willing to spend a little bit extra. We've made tremendous strides in the last 10 years, and the awareness in general has increased so much. So we're just really encouraged by the fact that people are asking more for sustainable products, and it's really becoming more of the standard than anything. And I think that's just kind of raising that bar, and the expectations that promotional products are going to have it's, hey, we need a sustainable product. It's the answer, and so we're encouraged by that for sure.
And
Yeah.
I think if you look at where the prices have been, I think across the board, sustainable products have come down in pricing because in the manufacturing side, they're more readily available. So despite inflation and rising costs and oil and transportation and everything that's gone on, we've seen these prices come down to close that gap, to what was a premium space. And that's really a function of it. There's not one factory in the world now that's focused on it and trying to get to that. It's really across the board. So you're seeing just the natural supply and demand, more people producing yarns and fabrics, and availability of sustainable materials is allowing everybody to produce it at more reasonable costs.
Okay. Well, this has been a really great discussion. I'm so glad you were able to join me today. But before we go, do either of you have anything else you'd like to add? Any final thoughts? Andy?
Bill?
Well, I was just going to say, Teresa, thanks so much for having us. We're, from Recover standpoint, we are pretty new to the promotional products industry. We feel like our brand and our story fits in really nicely, and we're so excited to share our brand message with more folks. So we appreciate you having us on and giving us the opportunity to share more about Recover, and excited for more folks to learn about us.
Yeah, and along those same lines, for us as NG Labs, and the beauty of the brands is we Recover as our sustainable arm, right? And so we drive that in those products and build that assortment. Boxercraft has its place, Head Sweats has its place. So I think collectively, we can support a lot of different markets and segments and things that people are looking for underneath our NG Labs umbrella. So I think this is where the coordinated effort of all the brands together is very, very meaningful.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. Once again, I'm Teresa Hegel, and this is Promo Insiders.